Welcome to the Mind Matters podcast again. Just delving into hopefully some funny moments in the more stressful times in life, and sharing people's experience of stress in various formats: civil, military, private security, sport, leadership. And today I'd like to introduce you to Troy. Morning, Troy.
Morning, Si. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule at the moment to chat.
Pleasure. Absolute jammers, I am, I tell you.
So the reason, I know I've known you for quite a long time now, and we've worked on various tasks in a whole range of countries. And I thought it'd be, I know you've got some cracking bits and little gems of wisdom to share with people. And I thought if we get you on today and have a chat and go through, start from early life for you, because you've got a dodgy accent, so I think you'd probably best explain yourself as to the origins of that. So yeah. So where does that come from?
Yeah, well, born in the UK, moved to Zambia when I was 3 weeks old, then to South Africa, then to Botswana, and then back to South Africa, then the UK. In between all of that, a bit of boarding school, but mainly schooled in Southern Africa. But ended up in boarding school in the UK, much to my dismay. Actually, do you know what? Put me in good stead for my future life. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
Unknowing I was going to end up in the military, because that wasn't the top of my list at the time. So, now I think back on it, boarding school actually was hoofing. It was good fun. You take the good, the bad, the ugly. It's a bit like the military, you
Absolutely
put up with the shit for shits and giggles with the lads. That's the best time, isn't it? Excuse the swearing, but hey, it's just the way it is.
Say it as you want to say it. That's free reign.
Yeah. So yeah, boarding school was good. I enjoyed it. Great at sport.
Where did you go? What school? Where did you go?
I was at Hall School in Robertsbridge, which is a prep school, I guess it's called. So up until 13, then did common entrance and went to St Edmund's School in Canterbury. But I didn't arrive at Vine Hall until I was 8, 9, thereabout. So I started quite late in boarding school terms.
Yes.
My brother had already been there for quite a while. He had always gone to school in the UK, where I hadn't. So getting on a plane, leaving South Africa, Johannesburg, it was Jan Smuts Airport at the time, to fly to Heathrow, get picked up in a car and taken to the school was a bit of an eye-opener, to say the least. You get there and it is, it's a bit Harry Potterish. You've got this massive dormitory, 20 kids in there, a prefect stroke dorm leader. And you're told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Make your beds, keep yourself clean. So very military orientated, I think.
It is. The structure is
very
similar, isn't it?
Yeah, I found that out obviously later in life, but like I said, put me in good stead for my time in the military. So yeah, I left. Academically, I was good, but couldn't be bothered. Basically, I remember
we are such similar creatures, mate.
I know, shocking, isn't it? I think there's a few people in the military or ex-military who could say the same thing. To be honest, very intelligent people, but just couldn't be asked.
Yes.
I remember my maths teacher when I was at Vine Hall. So I was 11, 12. I was a captain of the first 15 in rugby, and he was my maths teacher stroke headmaster. And his youngest son actually was the lead singer for, what are they called? Keane. Do you remember Keane?
Yeah.
Tom Chaplin, the lead singer. His dad was David Chaplin, who was my headmaster. Yeah. So, Tom, if you ever watch this, you're a little shit at school, to be fair. You did well in later life, to be honest. But yeah, I remember this one time we were watching, we were doing this maths, it was fractions, I think, and I was absolutely, algebra. absolutely useless. Couldn't figure out how A plus C equals X. And I still, to this day, don't know how that figures out. And I was sat there by the window, as you do, back of the classroom. I was watching our Colts 15 play rugby, and their pitch was right next to the classroom. And I remember this. He was a bit of a sniper, the maths teacher. He threw this fucking wooden whiteboard. You remember the whiteboard markers?
Yeah, I remember the pain of those as well. Yeah.
Yeah. He just launched this thing, and it just whacked me straight in the chest. And I was like, "What the fuck was that?" I haven't even spoken, so I don't even know what was going on. But anyway, one way of getting my attention, and he did that very well. And he said to me about this, Spears, what's this answer to this fraction algebra, whatever it was? And I was like, no idea. Didn't even know what class we're in, to be perfectly honest. And then he asked me what the score was for the rugby. And I was like, oh, we're winning 15-12. Like, just pay a bit more attention in school as you do watching sports. You'll be a winner. But that kind of sums up my schooling, boarding school attributes, really. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the banter with the lads, all the boarders. We had day schoolers as well.
Yeah.
We were kind of outcasts because they weren't at the boarding school. They were there during the day, and then mum and dad picked them up.
Yeah.
But to be, one of the gang, you had to sleep there. You had to live it. You got to love it. You got to eat it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the sloppy porridges and burnt sausages and fried batter and oh Jesus Christ! But you ate it, and again, puts you in good stead for when you join the military.
Well, yeah. Anything's better than
nothing.
Than rations. Although I did like the old tinned rations, to be honest.
Yeah, do you know what? A lot of people didn't like those. I was quite up for them as long as you had a bit of
chicken curry was lovely.
I remember swapping. We were doing an exercise with it was a NATO exercise, and we were working with the US Marines and some SEAL teams. And they used to get it was before the boil in the bag, but they had boil in the bag. And for us, we were just like, what's this all about? Boil in the bag business. And they'd get peanut butter and jelly and God knows what else. Italians are getting wine and the French are getting cheese. And what do we get? Fucking spam and chicken curry. And AB biscuits brown.
With, chicken pate cat food.
Oh, there we go. Exactly. Yeah, and I remember those guys, they were all over our tin food. So we'd swap them out for theirs, boil in the bag stuff, which was great because it was lighter, carry more of it. And you didn't have to bash it and wait for it on a bit of plastic fire to cook.
Yeah, cut yourself to ribbons trying to fold the tin up.
Yeah, exactly that. So,
yes.
Anyway, somewhat. So what was I doing? I left boarding school when I was 15. More got asked to leave, I think was the question or the case. Got suspended twice, then got expelled eventually. So on that note, my mum and dad, or my mum and stepdad, were in the office with the headmaster, and he was like, Spears, this is your last time. You've been warned. Blah 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 blah. And I thought, fuck this. Well, if I'm going to go, then I'm going to go. So I stood up and just dropped him in front of my mom and my stepdad, which probably wasn't the best move I've ever made.
No.
Albeit when we got in the car, my stepdad did say, yeah, fair one. I would have done the same thing. But to that end, I was a semi-pro windsurfer. I've been sponsored by sail companies and board companies, wetsuit companies. So I just wanted to work and earn my own money. So
how'd you get into the windsurfing?
My dad taught me. He was working in Saudi Arabia at the time, in Jeddah and Yambu, and back in the 80s. And he started out there. And when he came back on leave to the UK, he said, got to try this. And I was quite good at it, by all accounts. If I do say so myself, so.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. So kind of got into that and then just loved it, It was just, and it just rules your life. I used to sit with mates who could drive because obviously I couldn't drive. So they'd pick me up in their camper vans, chuck my kit in the back, and we'd go and sit at the beach and wait for wind. And that was my day, every day, waiting for wind. But when the wind blew, you're there and you're on it. So yeah, it was great. But it cost me a few jobs in the meantime. You know, I actually left school to work, but then when I was working, I was doing roofing at the time, and a friend of my parents, he was a roofer, so he took me on, and it was quite good. I was earning 300 quid a week, 15 years old, just for doing labouring, basically, which is, you know, I saw it as fizz. So I'm walking up and down, bumping up tiles up onto the roof, carrying bundles of battens, just getting fit for windsurfing. So I was like, I'm all over this, and getting paid for the privilege. Winner. So yeah, I ended up doing well at windsurfing, but then, you know, with windsurfing comes the alcohol side, possibly the smoking of drug side as well, because that's what the perception is, or it was my perception anyway. So I thought I'd give it a bash. And then you kind of just lose focus, which, you know, as any sportsman, professional athlete will tell you, you've got to be dedicated. From windsurfing to surfing to rugby to football, you've got to be dedicated to be at the top of your game.
100%.
My dedication ended up at opening time at 11 o'clock in the pub. So if the wind stopped, I went to the pub, 15, drinking. You know, it was just no good.
It's not a good combination, no.
Not really, mate, to be honest. I mean, again, it put me in good stead for my future life with the drinking side of it. So, can we just pause a minute, buddy?
So that's
getting into the drink and whatever. I mean, albeit I had good sponsors, you know, they had good sales, good top of the range kit, you know, and I was good at what I did, but just not focused enough, really. Ended up with this young lady who was a bit older than me at the time, so she was like 20, I think. Madly in love with her, wanted to marry her. I was like 15, 16. Stayed with her till I was 17. Then I thought it was a much better idea to bin it, which I did. And then a week later, regretted that idea and went, "You're going to take me back?" And she was like, "Nope." Fair one on her side of things. But to be honest, her parents didn't like me. Her dad was a ex-naval officer, which is not his fault, I suppose. But, you know, took a dislike to a young windsurfing alcoholic who wanted to marry his daughter, which, you know, now as I'm older and have kids of my own, I can see where he was coming from.
Yes.
Luckily, I've got 2 boys, not 2 girls. So thankfully. But yeah, you know, then I woke up one day, don't really know. So I left home in between all of this as well, and lived with a mate of mine who was in the military. So I was kind of living with him. Then he was away. Then he would come back. Then he actually PDR'd and left. So I think he only did like 3 years.
Okay.
But in that time frame, you know, I was talking about military and what have you. It was in the back of my mind. One of my uncles, he was an ex-Royal Marine. 40 commando, and he got medically discharged Belfast, which devastated him. Even to this day, he's 74, 75.
Yeah.
And he's a bootneck through and through. And biggest thing that could have ever happened to him was him leave the Royal Marines, particularly with those circumstances. So my other 2 uncles were in the Queen's Regiment, which is what I ended up joining. On that rainy day, and it was the advert. It was the military advert. It was raining. My ex wouldn't take me back. I didn't know what to do. Windsurfing, I couldn't be arsed with anymore. So I walked to the Army Careers Office. I was supposed to go to the Royal Marines, but they were down in Brighton. I was living in Hastings, and again, couldn't be asked to get the train down to the Navy signing office. So I ended up going to the Army office in Hastings and joining the Army. So that's kind of how that came around. On a very wet Saturday morning.
Kind of spur of the moment.
Yeah, it was, you know, I thought, fuck this. I had long hair down to here, highlighted down the sides, windsurfing, you know, just fit, but just didn't know what direction to go. Didn't know what to do with myself. No idea. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that join the military would tell you exactly the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I love the look of you when you walked in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was an interesting one. The sergeant who took me in, I said I wanted to. So I was 17, and basically signed the dotted line. 4 days later, I got a transfer to do the intake was up in Birmingham, Sutton Coldfield. Uh,
Okay.
so that's where you used to do for the army. That's where you do. So paras, infantry, whoever that was joining the army, that's where you go and do your pre-selection process. It's like a 2-day thing. You do BFTs and APFAs and fitness tests and stuff, and then past that, then you go through to basic training. So basically, you got that. You didn't have to have your head shaved or anything. You just go up there, do your stuff. They would say at the end of it, you meet the CO. He would say yes or no.
Yeah.
And I think it was a few weeks later, I just turned 18. I was up in Basingbourne Barracks near Royston, start my training. And there we go. Really.
So it was a pretty quick process.
Yeah, it was very quick actually, because it was, it was November. I did Sutton Coldfield, and then December, January, February, I turned 18. February 15th. Yeah, my birthday's on the 13th. It was the 15th, and went up, started basic training. So got up there along with all these other new recruit scroats, all with our ironing boards and irons and off the train into the minibus into the barracks, straight into the barbers, number one all over. Yeah, it looked quite strange actually. I was like, Jesus Christ, is that what I look like? But you know, again, you go through basic training as we all have done who've been in the military, whether it's Royal Marines or paras or whatever. We've all been through the same thing. And it just took me back to being in boarding school. That's all I could think it was. It was just being and you know, we had our hardships. We've got full screws, DSs screaming and shouting at you, but you know, in my mind, you can fuck me as much, you can shout at me as much as you want, but you're not going to make me pregnant, are you? So
this is true.
Yeah. I just kind of related back to boarding school, and you know, I could iron. That's one good thing I was good at, is ironing. When I was a kid, my mum used to say to me, do you want to do some washing up, or you can do the ironing? And I detested washing up. So I'd always do the ironing. And then going into boarding school was a good thing. And then obviously during the military, you have people, you can figure out who can do what. So I was good at doing ironing and making beds. You got another lad who's good at bulling boots. You got another lad who's good at doing something else. So you just kind of all mix in and get through it. And that's where the camaraderie, I think, comes from. That's where it starts stemming from, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. It starts really early. Yeah.
So getting it drilled out of us being a civvy into soldier mentality started pretty quickly. And you know, there was some good times. I enjoyed it, but you know, we started with 210 recruits, I think it were, and we finished actually. So you're in platoons. I know it's different. You're an ex-Royal Marine, but we're in platoons. So you'd have your troops, I guess. And we had 2 platoons, so starting at the same time. So there was Albahira and there was Quebec platoons, and I think total was about 400 guys. So it was like 200 each platoon. It was massive. When we finished, we had to amalgamate. So the end of our 7 months or whatever it was training, we had to amalgamate the 2 platoons because there was only 9 of us that finished. So yeah, it was a massive culling process. Some guys got back squatted through injury. And some were just biffs. Some were just useless. Some were, don't even know what they thought of about joining the military, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, the banter was good. It was good fun. You just got to get through it, haven't you? So yeah, there you go. Basic training done. Joined the military. Ended up in Northern Ireland, then to Cyprus, then Colchester, back to Cyprus. Left, joined the South African military, stayed there for 4 years. Left, and into Civvy Street. And that's kind of where it all starts.
I can relate to so much of what you're saying here with similar childhoods. Mine wasn't in Africa, per se, but mine was more Far East, but boarding school and military. And did you find the focus that you, because I found that it was the military that gave me the focus that I didn't have. I didn't know what direction to go until I got there.
Yeah.
And then it gave me everything I needed to give me direction, purpose, and focus.
Yeah.
Was it the same? Did you find that?
Yeah.
I mean, came out of training.
Yeah. When I joined, all my family, friends, windsurfing colleagues, they were like, there is no way on this planet that you've got the discipline for the military. that kind of was like, well, okay, we'll see. I'll show you kind of situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't have focus. Clearly, I could have been a professional windsurfer. I could have been, making movies and shit, which is what I wanted to do, but didn't have that focus. And then when I joined the military, that focus was brought to my attention pretty rapidly. And it does put you in good stead, and it makes you see things with a different light, albeit the military is very regime orientated because it has to be.
Yes.
And when you leave, as we've all found out, some people have coped with it a lot better than others. I left and I became a civvy. I worked driving a truck in Europe, and then working in Formula One, and then got into private security, and then the Iraqs, the Afghans, etc. But during my time in the military, you've got that bubble, haven't you?
Yes.
You're fed 3 times a day. Your taxes are paid. You got your money in the bank, albeit very little. You just wanted to go to war because that was your job. That's what you signed up for. And you wanted to go and drink with the lads. And you did fizz. There's predominantly what you did. That was the time in the military. But it made you focus, because you had to focus. You had to focus on your job. If you were sent to war, Northern Ireland at that time was prominent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Northern Ireland, guerrilla warfare. You're fighting people the same color, nationality as yourself. So you had no clue who you're talking to. You had no clue who to look for. So all your focus has to be massive. Quite funny talking of Northern Ireland. My first posting was in Aldergrove, South of Mar.
Yeah.
And, I was doing a P check with this RUC copper, and we were stopping cars. And the first car I stopped, bearing in mind I've come from South Africa, and I've just done done my basic training. First posting with 3rd Battalion Queen's Regiment was Aldergrove, catching the back end of a 2-year tour. And who do I have to stop? Out of all the people in the world that I could have stopped, the car I stopped was a red Audi A3, I think it was, or something along those lines at the time. And it's not a racial slur at all, because I'm as far from racist as the next person is. But it was this guy, this black guy. I mean, he was black, like properly black. And again, not a racial slur, but he was. If you lived in Africa and Africa, there are very different variants of black ethnicities throughout the whole continent. So I stopped this car. The guys opened the window. Now, all I'm expecting is this African guy to speak to me. When I've asked him for his driving license, ID, etc., where he's going, what he's doing, I've got this RUC copper stood next to me. So I've stopped, spoke to this guy, and he came out with the strongest Belfast accent. When you just don't know what to do. I was so gobsmacked. I was like, what? Where's this guy from? I've never heard a black person without an African accent.
Yes.
So for me, this was like, what? It's like I had literally been transported to Mars and back. I was like, where is this guy from? And I couldn't talk to him. He stopped me dead in his tracks. So whatever he was doing, or smuggling, if he was, which he wasn't, but he would have got away with it, because I was absolutely like, no clue what's going on. Ended up talking to the RUC copper. I was like, dude, can you deal with this? Because who's he?
This thing just went.
Yeah, honestly, it's just weird. So that was my sort of first one of my first patrols in Northern Ireland was a P check, just in, where was it, near Besbrook, I think. And this random black guy from Belfast. I didn't think you get black people outside of Africa. So, you know, that whole mind fuck up was just, you know, you're in Europe. When people,
quite a shift.
Yeah, where are you from? What's your name? You go, Troy, and you're from South Africa. If you've never been to Africa, they're like, what, there's white people in Africa? I've had that so many times as well. It's like, yes, there is. You know, what planet have you been living on? But I was on the same planet they were on a few years back. So,
That's, yeah,
very funny. Well, it was funny for me at the time anyway. But
bizarre. I'd love to have seen your face.
Yeah, it was apparently it was a picture. That's the only one of the lads who was in a culvert next to the vehicle was just like, your face was just class. You couldn't explain it. It was just like jaw on the tarmac, chin strap was gone, helmet undone, floor on tarmac. What the fuck is this? Who's this guy?
Yeah, complete confusion.
Yeah.
That's ace.
Yeah.
So where else did you go with the army?
After that I call it the last 6 months, then we went out to Cyprus, resident battalion there in Episcopi. Again, great posting, mate. But yeah, what do you call it? A drinking posting.
Yes.
That's the time when you realise that if you drink nowadays, when you're hitting 50, and your mind is still going, yeah, you did it when you were 20, and you then go and do a 15-miler with full kit on at 5 o'clock in the morning because you've just come off the piss. No, you can't do that anymore. Your mind's telling you yes, your body's going, yeah, fucking do one, big man.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Yeah, roger that.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting. Cyprus was good, but there for 2 years. We were engaged in the first Gulf War in '91. So some of us got sent out there attached to different units that were during the Gulf War, or the Beach War, as people call it. Yeah, another typical. A lot of people can relate to this military training. You know, we're in Cyprus, the middle of summer, August, 37 degrees or whatever it is. And what are we doing? We're training for a 6-month posting in the Falkland Islands in the middle of fucking summer. Hello, what part of this are we not getting? The Falkland Islands minus 37, Cyprus plus 37.
Yeah.
People going down with heat stroke and all sorts of shit, mate. It was just like horrendous. Because
there's a lack of logic sometimes, isn't there?
Definitely. It's like, why are you not using a unit from the UK or from Norway or, you know, Scotland or something? Why are you using a resident battalion in a hot climate? But yet you'd send a unit like the Welsh Guards, who I was attached to during the first Gulf War.
Yeah.
They were based in Tidworth, I think. And they got sent to the Gulf War. We're based in Cyprus, already acclimatized, already wearing desert kit, who didn't get sent.
Yeah.
Just mindset thinking is bizarre. So, you know, I'm sure we can all equate to that, whether you're Navy, Royal Marine, Air Force, whatever you are of the armed forces, everybody can equate to that situation.
Yes. Be interesting to know what the bigger picture was there, because I've numerous occasions, same sort of thing. It's just, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah. Bizarre. Absolutely bizarre.
Yeah.
Never got my head into it. But
no.
Yeah, so after Cyprus, Colchester, we amalgamated them from Queen's Regiment with the Royal Hampshires, became Princess of Wales Royal Regiment, or the Squeegees, whatever you want to call us. Princess Diana was our colonel-in-chief, and she ended up having fun outside of her remit, shall we say. So, yeah. Good times again. Then we got posted, my battalion, we were split between Colchester and Canterbury. I chose Colchester because we're going back to North Ireland, so we went to Omagh. And again, 2-year tour. And then I left and joined the South African military, which I'm not going to go into too much. Stayed there for 5 years, and left in '98.
Okay, so what sparked the move from UK military to South African?
different. People join the Legion, after joining the Blitz, which I was thinking about, actually. I was thinking selection, Hereford. I thought, no, do something a bit different. I caught the back end of, apartheid had finished, regimes had changed in South Africa. So I caught the back end of, from 95 to 98, the last of what we know as the South African military was really good. Well disciplined, hard
Yeah.
people. Got the shit ripped out of me because I'm English South African, not Afrikaans. Obviously, everything's given, all the commands, everything's in Afrikaans, so you learn pretty quickly. And they call us, the English South Africans, they call us soties, salties, basically. Soutpeel, which means salt cock, one other word. Or salty balls is the actual real terminology. And that's because you got 1 foot in the UK and 1 foot in South Africa and your bollocks are in the ocean. So they call us, that's where the nicknames come from. So if you ever hear somebody being called a soutpeel or soti, it's because they're English South African. So yeah, that was, good times, tough times, different countries I went in Africa, which people don't even hear of because it's not within the remit. Why would you?
Yep.
There's countries at war all over the world to this day that we don't know is even going on, existing, unless we have some involvement in it.
Yeah.
Which, came later in life in the private security sector, which is where we met. So
it is indeed. It is indeed. But I am very, very curious because you've talked a little bit over the time we've known each other about your escapades in Formula One, which did make me chuckle. That's a lot of fun, I think, was had there.
Yeah, good times, mate. It's when I left the military, I ended up driving trucks in Europe for the company. So I was doing international driving from the UK through Europe, France, Italy, Spain, and then got offered a job driving. What's the word in English? Can't even think of it. It's an MRI scanner.
Yeah.
In Italian is magnetico resonanza imaging. So MRI scanners, basically mobile MRI scanners. So I brought them around a circuit in Italy. So I'd start in Turin, then Milan, a place called Bassano di Grappa, which is in the northeast of Italy, and then down to Terni, which is near Rome, and then Modena, and then Modena. Was it Modena? Filet? No. Just can't remember where it was called. Vicenza, Florence. There we go. And then back to Turin. So that was a week. I'll do that drive. Yeah, again, didn't speak any Italian, mate, which was a bit of a fail at first. So you learn pretty quickly. The guy who works inside the MRI scanner is a doctor engineeri. And so I basically set it up at the hospital. He would come in and then patients would come in and do their MRI scans and what have you. So this particular doctor that I had, I'd have 2 different ones on that week trip that I would be doing that they would as well. So I'd meet them all the time. One of them didn't speak any English, but spoke French and I spoke French. So that's how we communicated. And he started to teach me Italian through French into English. It was a bit complicated, but got there eventually. But my first week, I drove from, I didn't have to go to Milan. I went from Torino to Bassano di Grappa. Now, Grappa, that's where it's from.
Yes.
Little did Troy know in his geographical knowledge of Italy that Bassano di Grappa is where Grappa's from. Didn't even know what Grappa was, to be perfectly honest.
Apart from lethal.
Yeah. So I've met this engineer, we're doing our thing, and then he's like, okay, we're closed, we go for lunch. But in Italian, so I'm kind of understanding. I'm going, yeah, okay. Go with him for lunch. Never eaten Italian food. Yeah, so I'm just doing what he's doing. You kind of watch and mirror image what this guy's doing because we couldn't speak to each other. So he's ordered food. Yeah, that'll do. I'll have, what carbonara. Yeah, I know what carbonara is. Okay, I'll have some of that. And then I saw him have a coffee, a little espresso, and a tumbler of water. So I thought, oh, okay. because it's espresso, it's quite strong. Obviously, the water is just to wash it down with hundreds. So this guy's drunk his espresso with the water. So I thought, fuck this. So I've drunk my coffee, first espresso in my life. I was like, wow, okay, wakey, wakey. And just met this water, mate. Fuck me. I nearly died there and then. Because it's clear, because grappa is the offshoot of grapes for wine.
Yeah.
And this was clear water, what I thought. No, this was grappa, like the most, dude, I don't know if you've ever drunk straw rum. Straw rum, we call it in South Africa. It's like something percent proof. This grappa had the exact same effect on me as straw rum did when I first tried that. And literally sat at the table and went grey and then started sweating. I didn't get time to stand up before I vomited on the floor. Week 1 in Italy, mate, didn't go down very well. You need to learn the language, Troy. So, I haven't touched grappa since, to be perfectly honest. That was my first and last time. I was like, fuck.
Funny old thing.
Oh, mate, it's like rocket fuel. I couldn't. This guy's just gone. Like the Greeks with ouzo, you know, they're just like, yeah, okay, off we go. So so I learned Italian on my time there, and then ended up in Florence. This lad came in to the MRI scanner and heard me talking to the engineer who I was learning Italian through, the French speaking guy.
Yeah,
could speak it, but at this point quite fluently. And at the end, he was like, "Oh, so this patient came to me and said, oh, so you where are you from?" In Italian. I said, oh, I'm from South Africa. He's like, but what are you doing here? How do you speak Italian? Told him the situation. He was like, oh, right. He said, are you interested in Formula One? I said, no, mate, never, don't watch it, not interested. You know, it's just cars going around the circuit. I said, my stepfather, on the other hand, he's a massive Ferrari fanatic, loves it. He was like, oh, right, okay, but would you be interested in working in it? I was like, what? I said, yeah, doing what? He said, oh, driving trucks and working in pits. So I'd watched it with my stepfather, but not massively.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew what was going on. And I was like, yeah, why not? And turns out this guy's name was Stefano Domenicalo, who was the team manager for Ferrari.
Yeah.
So I told him my trip. He said, well, come for an interview at Maranello. So I went for an interview at Maranello. He said, you know, I've only got shorts, T-shirts, because that's all I've got. He's like, no problem. So I went for an interview with Jean Todt, who was the team boss at the time.
Yeah.
Stefano, who was the team manager, and Nigel Stepney, who was the pit crew manager, chief.
Yep.
Yeah, and what they like is, which makes sense. And I think, again, very military. They like people who know nothing about Formula One because they teach them their way.
Yeah.
You know, if you work in a unit, particularly in private security, where you've got lads, maritime security is classic for this, where you've got lads all from the same unit background, brings nothing to the table except for issues, I think. If you've got people, as we found out when we first met, from all different cap badges,
yeah,
everybody can bring something different to the table.
Absolutely.
So, and that's what they like. They like somebody that doesn't know anything. They teach them their way. They don't want to hear about when they were working for Benetton or when they worked for McLaren or what have you. This is their way, and that's how you do it. And you know, best time of my life, to be honest. Ended up leaving them after a season because a South African friend of mine, he still works there. Actually, he worked at McLaren as a chief engineer.
Okay.
I got to meet him on the circuit. You know, South Africans, we kind of keep close to each other. And he said, look, we're looking for a truckie for McLaren. Do you want to come over? I was like, yeah, fuck, why not? Better money back in the UK. So I left Ferrari after a year and then moved to Woking or Guildford. Ended up working for McLaren as a third truckie. So I'd basically drive the satellite truck. I'd have the spare car, go to the race circuit early. I'd set up all the pit lane, paint the garage, set up. So when you see the cameras in the pits, in the garage of where the drivers are sat, with the cars. All
Yep.
that boarding at the back and the monitors that used to come down, that's what I used to do.
Okay.
Yeah, so interesting times, good fun times. But McLaren was a business, Ferrari's a racing team. McLaren was a business. They started building the McLaren F1 road car. There was a lot going on. They were moving to a new premises, and there was a lot of dead wood working there that needed to move on fairly rapidly.
Okay.
From what
Interesting distinction though
with
between the two teams.
Yeah. It was. I mean, Ferrari makes Ferraris, but they also race cars. All their cars are race cars, aren't they? Whether it's a road car or not. McLaren were just a race team. Then they got into road cars.
Yeah.
And then that's where the issue started. They were utilizing race team to build the road cars, or their focus was more on the road car than it was on the race team. So you'd have a test team. They would go off to test the vehicles, the race car, the Formula One cars. Then you had the main race team who would go to all the race circuits, the Formula One races. Then you had the McLaren F1 road car team. Then you've got the hospitality team. There's just this huge thing. It's costing these guys about 10, 15 million a year just in hotels and movement of kit.
That's outrageous, isn't it? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a circus. But I had some good fun times in the circus. Not sure if I should say this on here, but hey, what have we got to lose? Hopefully it doesn't go too far and wide, but hey.
Well, it's done and dusted, isn't it? There's
exactly. But when you're working in Formula One, whether you're a good-looking lad or not, if you're wearing team kit, for at the time the two top teams I'd worked for, Ferrari and McLaren. So McLaren were in the top three, I think, at the point. So when you go to Monaco, you have to minimise the equipment you take with you to a normal race because it's in the harbour.
Yes.
But there was the hospitality unit, and then so here's the hospitality unit, there's the harbour, there's a fence that goes down, and there's all these bars and shops where cities can walk around. It's great. It's the best race to go to. You come down the pit lane, you can have chats with them. It's awesome. So I was working away down in the paddock and started talking to this chick, Swedish, as it turns out, with huge tits. Just, it's one of those things that just couldn't, you've got to remember them. Who had actually just had a breast reduction, as it turns out. I was like, wow, they must have been big. Anyhow, so my claim to, I've got two claims to fame, actually. First one was taking her on top of the motorhome in the pit lane at night and, doing dirty deeds and unlawful things, basically. Yeah, great. And then the next day you've got all these VIPs on the top, and I'm like, so they're all cutting around. All Sylvester Stallone was there, and all that, all up the top having their drinks. I was like,
oh dear,
you got no idea what went on here, do you? My next claim to fame was at the end of the race. Obviously, I'd worked for Ferrari previously, so all the drivers at that point had boats. Yachts, super yachts.
Yeah,
I knew Eddie Irvine quite well. He was driving for Ferrari at the time, and end of the race, all finished, and we went to his boat for drinks. So packed up the truck's on the quay, waiting to go. The next morning, boats here next to my truck, all the other boats lined up. So rest of the team has flown home. It's just me basically. So I've gone on to Eddie's boat, take your shoes off before you walk down the gangplank to get onto the vessel. Standard, don't wear shoes on a boat, particularly one of those.
Yes.
But absolute shiters, mate. Absolutely hammered. With all these VIP celebrities, drivers, managers, everybody was on there. Next morning, about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, I've gone to walk off the gangway to get into the truck to drive back to the yard, back to the UK. And as I've gone, I put my boots on. I was wearing cat boots. So I put my boots on the deck before I walked down the gangplank. Had my truck keys in my hand. You can see what's going to happen next, can't you? Slipped on the gangplank. upside down in the water, caught in these ropes that are holding the gangplank to the quay, watching my keys float to the bottom of Monaco Harbour, my only set of keys for the truck. And I'm like, fuck, you know, when you sober up pretty rapidly, that was it.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit, what do I do? So somebody's pulled me out the water or up. My legs were tangled in, so my legs are kind of hanging off the top of this gangway. And my upper body, torso, is in the water, watching disappear to the bottom of the ocean. How do you explain this one? Because the next race is Canada. So I had to get back to repack to do the flyaway to Canada, because that's another whole mission. But anyway, Eddie woke up. Spoke to him, said, listen, mate, I've dropped my keys. And they're the only keys to the truck. So he called a diver. Now, these divers in Monaco Harbour are epic. This diver went down. There was a manager who dropped his SIM card when he was switching over SIM cards the night before. Went down within 30 seconds, found the SIM card and my truck keys. Came back up and went, these yours? I was like, yes, winner. Off I went. So, yeah, one of my claims to fame, mate, was that. But, yeah, again, good fun. It was really good. Got me out the military mentality into a civvy mentality.
That'll do it. Jeez.
Yeah, with a similar structure, though. You know, it's quite disciplined.
The time scale between races to get from one to another.
Yeah.
You can't do it without a really tight team and tight structure. And
yeah, you've got to have everybody knowing what they're doing. It's military maneuvers, basically, as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And coordination. So, yeah.
So just a question just popped into my head when you were talking there. How important do you think has this kind of movement around different jobs and different lifestyles and cultures been in that for that next step into the private security stuff and to where you are now?
Yeah, do you know what? I think a lot of us can relate to, we're very nomadic. Like you said, yourself, myself, very different backgrounds, but very similar.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know where home is. I'm currently in the Netherlands, but we're just about to leave here. And this isn't, people are like, oh, why are you selling your house? It's your house and your home. But it's like, it's not, it's a building. It's not my home. I'm not going to come back here when I leave here. I'll go back to the UK because that's where my family are, like my mom and whatever. But it's a nomadic, it's one thing I've regretted. Not regretted, that's the wrong word, but one thing that I think being military, you kind of want things, but it's very difficult to do it. Everybody wants to get married. Everybody wants the 2.4 children, the house, a nice life. But doing it while you're in the military is really hard.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
People that I know joined the military, got married once, and are still with that person. I mean, I've been married before. I've been married, divorced, and just about to get married again. So, it's, for me personally, I've always wanted something. I've just never known what it was. But I see people, and I go, oh, look at that. They've got the kids, they've got the house, stability, they're home every night. I want that. And then you try it and it just doesn't work because that's not who you are. You're so used to moving and change and when I joined Formula One, cars are coming into the pit lanes at 60, 70 miles an hour. Within 10 foot, that car would stop from 70 miles an hour to zero.
Yeah.
That rush is exactly the same as when you get in a contact in Northern Ireland or war or whatever, wherever you are. So for me, it's always been about the rush. It's always been about the excitement of a job. So when I've gone into, and I've tried normal jobs and they just haven't worked because it's just fucking boring. It's how do you do it? But if you've never known any different, I can understand how you do it.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm getting to a stage now where I would like that. But in the same breath, what I'm trying to do is find a job which gives me that same rush, but I'm home every night. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because now I do have a beautiful woman. I do have beautiful kids. and we're moving to a different country. So it's a new adventure for us as a family. But if I get a land-based job, I want something that can still give you that. It doesn't have to be every day, but that's something. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I found it really hard, friends-wise. That's a classic. I haven't got friends. I've got colleagues. I've got probably 4 or 5 friends, you being one of them. But you see people who, I was talking to this lad the other day, and he's traveled the world and he's done all sorts of work in health and safety and whatever, but he's never lived more than 5 miles outside of where he was born. So he's got massive amounts of friends and connection, like close friends in that vicinity, where I don't have that, and I'm sure a lot of us don't have that because of our nomadic lifestyle. But yeah, in answer to your question, it put me in good stead. I've transitioned from military regime, as it were, to civilian, but still with a structure. So military structure, that's the right word, to a civilian structure, to then, as it turned out, I got into surveillance, covert surveillance in Europe and the UK, and then into the private sector, mercenaries, as we were called back then, but now private security. In 2003, when Iraq kicked off, I was one of the first 20 private security to go there with a company. And, so you've got that then, as you know yourself, because you've done it. The military, you've taken everything you know from the military to bring it into a civilian context.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing, really. We're not having to wear uniforms, which is great. We could cut around with all these different weapons. I was buying weapons. I bought all the weapons for one company through a colleague of mine who was working for the Americans, who I knew from the South African military.
Yeah.
We did 250 AK-47s, 250 MP5s, magazines, cleaning kit. He had them there in 2 days. And then I sold them to the company, made a small fortune, as you do back then. And yeah, happy days. It was great. Cutting around Iraq like nutters. Fucking bizarre.
It was good.
Yeah, it was.
It was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I left Iraq to go to Afghanistan because Iraq, there was all the structure started to come into it. When I first went there in 2003, I don't know when you first went, but when I first went in 2003, we basically had wagons. We had old lats and longs maps. No good to man or beast, but that's all we had.
Yeah. With
weapons that we'd got given by lads we had known from Hereford who dug them in during the first Gulf War until we procured our own.
Yeah.
But just unreal. There was no rules. There was no nothing. You could drive around. You could do what you want. You could go where you want, when you want, how you want.
And safer because nobody knew what the fuck was going on. What you were doing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it changed when we worked together. I mean, we were doing a lot more covert moves, weren't we? Bearded up, wearing shemags, low profile vehicles, armored, because we were cutting around Baghdad and up to Beiji, one route in, one route out. But when I first went there, we were driving like these old battered 4x4s. Nobody knew who we were, best kept that way. And then they started to change it and we got Ford Excursions. Couldn't get any bigger, whiter American vehicles.
Big fucking flashing neon lights.
What a nightmare they were. But I mean, to be honest, saved my life a couple of times. But just it was lawless, and I enjoyed it. Because you still had that military structure in your head, but you didn't have the bullshit because there was no emails, there was no sat phones. You had a sat phone, but it cost $34 a minute, so we were allowed to call home once every month or something. So you're left to your own devices. Your team was your team.
Mm-hmm.
That was your life support. That was your backup. That was your medic. That was your chef in some cases.
Yes.
So it was great. I just loved it. I loved every second of it. I'd come out of Formula One, got into surveillance. Surveillance was hit and miss work-wise, albeit it was very good, but it's never continuous. And now
No.
offered a job in Iraq during the war. Actually, I was there as they pulled the statue down in Baghdad. I was posting Al Hilla. You know, and you're driving around in Baghdad, and there's fucking Sam 7s and AKs lying on the floor, and people just picking them up, just doing what they want. It's just mental. Raping and pillaging Saddam Hussein's, you know, palace, and coming out with all sorts of weird and wonderful gifts and garments and God knows what else.
Yep.
Brilliant times. And then, you know, it had to happen, I suppose. The structure had to come into private security, because again, you know, and this is what this is all about. That for me is where the issue started. All my time in the military, you know, you'd never really thought about it. You're in the military, that was your job. Coming into a private sector where your backup is my mate. That is my backup. If he's dead, we're fucked. That's the long and short of it. We couldn't call in air support, can't call in artillery, you can't call in Chinook to come pick him up as a medic to fly him out. That is you. You're on the ground with your 4-man team, 6-man team, and you're done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think later in life, that's where a lot of my issues and a lot of other lads' issues came into play, albeit didn't think I had any. But clearly I did. As I got told by an ex, what was it? She said, I've got zero empathy. Which at that point, while sipping a beer, I was like, probably. Anyway.
Yeah.
Next. So that says
pizza for tea?
Yeah, exactly. So there was fuck all empathy, mate. Now I think about it, but that's because I've had a good lady stick by me now and help me through these issues. You know, I spoke to you about things. And trigger points. You know, I know we're digressing here. We're kind of going further down the road, but
no, it's cool. This goes where it needs to go, mate. That's it.
But you know, when I met my missus now, was just after I'd left the person who told me that I had zero empathy, and you know, I was a social hand grenade, to be honest. I was based in Dubai, drinking lots, training lots, playing rugby a lot, doing my job a lot, 22, 23 hours a day. But I'd work all night and then get up, do fizz and get shit-faced. And then go back, carry on working, get up after 2 hours sleep, do fizz, get shit-faced, get out of bed. That was my life.
It takes its toll, doesn't it? Yeah,
but for me it was normal. I thought that's what happened. I didn't know any different, so why would it not be normal? But you know, when you start losing the plot and start smashing phones on corners of tables and over something that was irrelevant, when you look back on it and think, fuck, I was a complete and utter nutcase. Social hand grenade.
Yeah. Do you not find you get to the point where we know we can deal with the big shit that goes on? That's easy. That's bread and butter. Yeah. It's the little things that are not related to the job that spin us out and make us lose our shit.
Yeah.
And then we look a complete fucking idiot yet again.
Yeah, you look a tool, that's for sure. And that, I think that was it. You know, I remember at this point, I was. So we've kind of progressed through the years, but at this point, I was in Dubai. I was a country manager for a maritime company who used to have floating armories in Fujairah, Djibouti, that area. So I was in charge of all the teams, security teams, companies coming onto our floating armory in Fujairah. But I was by myself. So it was just me. It ended up that we had a 10-person office. So I was doing 10 people's jobs, which I didn't care. You know, you've been told to do a job, and this goes back to the military. That's your job. Get on with it.
Yeah.
And that's why they love military, because we just get on with it. We do the job, and we will not do the job until we're done. And, you know, it's continuous when you're doing weapons, armor, visas, airports. You know, that's what I was doing, everything, plus replen of food, plus. And I was working 22 hours a day. But I could do that from a bar. And I could do that from the beach. I could do that while I was in the gym. And that's how I got my life around it. But what I didn't realize, I'm quite a social person, but what I didn't realize is how unsociable I was because of drinking too much. I'm socializing with everybody, but what a cock I was, basically. Let's put it that way. It was just like, fuck. Now, when I look back on conversations, mate, I was like, I'm surprised anybody fucking spoke to me. Just a nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Why would you? You know, Troy's fun for the first 4 beers. After beer 5, forget it. Just goes into a different world or something. Something happens where it just changes. And everything's a mission. Everything's a nightmare. Everyone's a problem. Everything's a dilemma. Yeah, and this chick I was seeing at the time, she went to China to see a friend. It was during Ramadan. And so nothing's open. Luckily, a couple of the bars are open, but I used to just get fucking, mate, absolutely shiters. And just shout at her and scream at her on the phone because she was shagging somebody else or whatever. She wasn't, but that's what I was start to think.
Yeah.
So the whole social mistrust and issues and insecurities would come out. And because you don't know how to deal with it, what do we do best? We start arguing, fighting. You know, that's what we do.
Because we feel threatened, so we respond to threats with aggression.
Yeah. So, yeah, very, very weird times. You know, I'd like to think now I'm 100% better than what I was. But, you know, there's points where things raise their ugly head, that's for sure. But in general, no. Compared to then, 9 years ago, chaos. But a lot of that was down to private security. Yes. I believe. When I've tried to decipher all of this, then that's what I believe it's down to. So I'm just in the email come through. I don't know what they're talking about. Anyway,
well, it's an extra level of emotion when you're in a country. Yeah, cheers, bud.
Reap them.
Yeah, go for it. There's an extra level of emotion, isn't there? When you are cutting around a country that's crawled up its own arse.
Yeah.
And it's full of lunatics.
And you got zero comms.
And you've got no backup. And if it goes tits up, you are completely fucked. You've got you've got to fight. You're just fighting to your last breath, aren't you? That's it. Simple as.
No, exactly.
And that's at the time you think nothing of it. When you look back at it, I look back on some of our, the times we had in Iraq, and I think, fucking holy shit. What? How? Why?
100%, mate. 100%. If I lose you, mate, I apologise, but I'm just going to be stood by my door, and hopefully I won't lose you.
That's right.
Welcome to my garden.
Oh no, sun's shining. It's good.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful day. Are you there? Let me just hold you
I
there.
I am, yes.
Yeah, and I think, that was a big issue was, I remember fucking some good times though, bro. I mean, you got to put it that way. I remember times me and you.
Awesome.
Yeah. Just mental times. And you can't sometimes put fingers on it. Like we're talking about spinning dits, but I mean, some of them, unless you're there, just not funny. But when you were there, it was absolutely killer. I remember my mate, me and Davey Howarth, we were down, I was the ops manager down in Al Hilla, and he was part of my team. And we came back from vacation, basically. So we had to get picked up in Baghdad. Now, down there in Al Hilla, we were in porta cabins. We put a cage up over the porta cabins because we get mortared every night. They would overshoot most of the time. But back in Northern Ireland, what did you have in the IC stations? With the mortar nets. So I made our engineering company, that was our client, put one up. Because we just, you could set your watch by 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Sit down for scran, and you just hear, right, okay, in we go into the bunker. Scran's on the table. Sit there 10 minutes. Yep, back out. Start eating. And that happened every day. During the World Cup 2003, the client let us stop work so we could watch the World Cup. And I kind of put it to him. It's like your NFL finals is the World Cup to us. And so he said, okay, we'll just cancel work. He bought all the beer and we just got absolutely shit-faced. We had A team on standby that was sober, but then we'd switch it around. So we weren't totally unprofessional. Watching a lad who I met later in life, Des Tugavi. I met him further down the road when I moved to the Netherlands. But I remember watching him. He used to play for Samoa, and he was playing the Springboks. And I'm sat in Iraq getting drunk while being mortared, watching the Rugby World Cup. Things like you can't. People think you're talking shit, but it's not. It's true. It's what we used to do. So, going back to Davy House, we got back to Baghdad. Bearing in mind, we're used to getting mortared every single night, and we're sat in our cabins. So if you look at my door here, that was my door. That was Davy's door to his cabin. So separate cabins, but the doors were leading to the same place. And we stood very much like I am now, talking to each other, eating gummy bears that he had brought back from the UK. And we're getting fucking mortared to shit, mate, like properly malleted. And everybody in the compound in Baghdad was running around like headless chickens, helmets, body armor, getting into cover. Me and Davey just looked at each other and we went, all right, mate, welcome back. See, we're here again. And we didn't move because we're so used to it. It's just normal for us to get hammered every day. Well, obviously, Baghdad is a massive area. So when it happens, it's like, fucking, getting fucking water, quick, run. We're in Al Hilla by the river of Babylon, and we all know a song about that one. And we're getting Katushka rockets come flying over. We're getting malleted. We're getting snipers shooting at us. But that's normal shit. And then they wonder why we've got issues at the end of it. It's like, hardly surprising, to be honest, when you now sit back and reflect.
Amount of times I remember just driving up from the green zone up to the airport, up the bar, and there'd be American EOD would be stopping the traffic because there was there'd be an unexploded mortar round in the road, or there was an IED found or whatever. But you just listen. They'd let you go. It's just you take the risk. If you want to go, you go. So we just scoot around and drive past this thing in the fucking road, or you'd be sat queuing to get in to Camp Victory, and you start getting incoming somewhere along the thing, and you were just waiting for it fucking because you're then packed in a queue of traffic waiting for rounds to start pinging off your car. You're like, for fuck's sake, not again.
Yeah. Well, I had that with we were one of the first private companies to get contacted. Like I said, because we were there right at the beginning. So it's when we got these massive fucking forward excursions. So when I said about saving my life, I actually did save my life. But we kept taking the same route. I had to go for a meeting up in Baghdad as the ops manager, but I love driving as well. So we had 2-vehicle convoy. I said I'll drive the front vehicle. Simple fact is, everyone says smoking kills you. He says with the smoke, it fucking doesn't. It saved my life. So the smokers were in the front vehicle. With the client, we've gone to the oil refinery, dropped him off, and then we were going from there, Muhammadiyah, up to Baghdad.
Yep. Your connection's gone a bit wibbly.
No, we're going the back route. We're using it too much. Sorry, mate. Let me. Any better?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So let me just finish this and then I'll get back to that later. So we dropped the client off at the oil refinery. Went to go for our meeting. I said, right, we'll take the other route because we've been using the highway too much. So let's take the back route, and drove through Muhammadiyah in traffic. So we passed the police checkpoint. Basically, the road went straight. We'd stopped at a petrol station or outside a petrol station. The road bends round to the right, goes straight for about 300 meters, round to the left again, because the main road had been blocked off.
Yep.
So you had to box yourself in. Got there, 2-vehicle convoy, no clients, just me driving the front vehicle with the smokers. So we wound the windows down, having a smoke. I remember my mate, we were listening to Rammstein, weirdly enough, but um, the beginning of the song is a fucking call to prayer. I can't remember. I've been looking for it for months. And so we had the windows down, having a smoke, listening to fucking Rammstein, and it's call to prayer at the beginning of this song. And next minute, just so, and I thought people were, because it was all people, you know, one of our key telltale signs when you're in the military in Northern Ireland is that everything goes quiet.
Yeah.
People disappear. Now, this wasn't. People were out and about doing their thing. And so I thought somebody had picked up a whole load of stones and thrown them at the side of the car. As it turns out, a vehicle drove up behind us, the rear vehicle, and opened up on us. So as soon as I heard this against the side of the vehicle, I'm like, right, lads, let's get the fuck out of here. So we fucked off, as you do, turned the corner, and then I had an MP5 Kurtz. For those that don't know, it's very small, very easy to blow your finger off the end of the barrel because it's that small. And I had it hooked in the window while I was driving this fucking Ford Excursion. And a gun group, as we turned the corner, opened up on us. And I'm just opening up on them while I'm driving, with the rear gunner as well, who's in the back seat, opening up on them. The rear vehicle is getting malleted by this car. And we had a guy who aptly became known as Rambo. He basically had an AK-47 with 5 or 6 drum magazines, MP5 with drum magazines, and he just opened up on this car and fucking nailed them. So we've gone through, so we had a rear vehicle attack, gun group, down the other end of the road. As we turned, opened up on the right side of the vehicle, and then we drove out the kill zone. Turns out the vehicle driver and the rear vehicle got hit twice in the arm. Big Welsh lad, 6'4" or whatever. That's the vehicle I was supposed to be driving, the chase vehicle. But I didn't because I was driving the front vehicle because of the smokers. So hence why smoking doesn't kill you, as far as I'm concerned anyway.
Yeah.
We counted. So he got hit twice. And now bear in mind, he's 6'3", 6'4". And we looked at the vehicle because they're soft skin vehicles. So we looked at the vehicle, had 350 rounds went through it. And
holy shit.
He got hit twice, once in the elbow and once in the wrist, there and there. And we looked at trajectory of rounds. If I was sat there and we moved the seat forward, and basically where he had got hit would have gone through the side of my body armor, through the chest, because, you know, obviously you've got plate the front, plate the back. This would have gone through the side of me because I would have been sat further forward. Lucky days. Turns out the noise at the side of the vehicle that initiated the contact was an RPG. An RPG had hit the deck but didn't detonate because it didn't have time to arm it. It was too close, so it didn't arm itself. And so it's hit the deck and thrown stones up against my vehicle. And that's what initiated the contact. I was like, fucking hello, welcome. Hey.
Yeah.
So, you know, I remember speaking to a mate of mine who was an ex-B Squadron lad, Hereford. And he gave me a call sign. He said, if you ever get in shit, mate, use this call sign. So he gave me a call sign. And on that contact, we'd driven out of the kill zone, swapped the driver over with my rear gunner, drove about K down the road. There was an American base. So we pulled into there, chucked over the call sign. He just opened the gate, in we went. So point to be, if we didn't know and do a bit of risk assessment, background checks, and trying to help ourselves out as a small team,
yes, we
would have been fucked because there was nobody else. As it turns out, I got this call sign from a colleague of mine who I utilized that in the time of need, got the lad who got shot into their hospital, straight in, medical care, helicopter Kazavaked him out to Baghdad. We had a Humvee escort from there back to Baghdad, you know, because they thought we were somebody else. They thought we were that call sign. So, you know, that's kind of how you had to work. You had to utilize things. You had to do your own background work and to keep yourself alive, really. But yeah, it was just that point, listening to Rammstein with the call to prayer. And I don't know, you've been in a Ford Excursion? They've got a fucking uber good sound system.
Yeah, they're comfy to drive.
Oh, mate, they're great vehicles. But it was just bizarre listening to Rammstein with this call to prayer as the beginning of the song, and then this contact started.
Boom.
It was like you had a out of body experience. You're kind of watching yourself, doing things, and then you were back into yourself when you got out of the contact. It was really strange. But that was, one of many that we can talk about. As you've been through. I know up in Beijing there was the issue. It was just before I joined, I think, with the contact up into the oil field. And again, that nearly happened twice. And I was with Ross when the second time it nearly happened. I think you were there as well. Actually.
We stopped on the road just for the petrol station, didn't we? About 100, 200 meters short.
Yeah, because we thought the same thing was going to happen.
It looked like it, but I think it would have happened, but the fact that we stopped and.
Well, we got rid of the Iraqi team as well, so we're all Brit team.
Yeah,
we had a massive part to play as well.
It was funny because there was about 2 or 3 vehicles fucked off once we stopped short.
Truck reversed out into the road, exact same MO, and luckily we got away with it. But
I remember that bloody culvert, that little tunnel going on the back road to get to the. Jesus, I hated that.
Yeah, it wasn't fun, was it?
God, it was so fucking narrow as well. When you put your foot down to floor through it, I thought, if you clip it, you're fucked.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting time.
Oh. What do you think it is that gets you through those times and makes you laugh at it afterwards?
I think you kind of have to. It's like soldiers. Again, anywhere in the armed forces, doesn't matter who you are, what your background is. If you go into war zones, it's what you signed up for originally. Well, what 90% of us signed up for anyway. I think the foot soldiers, Royal Marines, Paras, infantry.
Absolutely.
What we signed up for. Well, that's what I signed up for. And you that's your job. You get killed, you get killed. That's just the way it is. That's your job. When you're doing private security, it is your job, but it's kind of not your job, if that makes sense. It's a bit of a strange one. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the issue, how it starts, where it starts. Couldn't tell you, to be honest. It's one of those, can't put my finger on it. I'm sure it'll come to me later down the conversation, but there's something you just can't figure out where. I think because you don't have the backing from air support, medics, artillery.
That's true.
You are your own unit. There's a lot more pressure than if you're in the military, where you have so much resources to call on.
Yeah.
And albeit these companies at the time were going into these places and they were fucking as blind as we were.
Yeah, that's very true.
When you did private security back in the day, you were a security manager of a compound in Saudi Arabia. That's pretty much where it all started. And then all this started to happen. And there was 2 companies, Executive Outcomes and Sandline. They were the original mercenary companies. Now, Eben, he's now restarted EO. That started then. I was talking to him not so long ago, and a good thing, because there's a lot of shit happening in Africa that needs sorting out, and I hope he does well on it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Tim Spicer, ex-military officer, owned Sandline, left Sandline, started Aegis and Hart and what have you, with a couple of other directors from Sandline. They were the original mercenary companies, but the people you're employing are ex-soldiers in this role. We're not ex-mercenaries. It was new to us, albeit we take the same knowledge, but it was new to us to be in those kind of environments in that role.
Yeah.
And, I remember later down the line, there was a mate I was in Iraq with, didn't see him for years, and then we ended up on maritime security together, anti-piracy work in East Africa. And I was getting rock star wages, man. I was getting paid more doing maritime than I was in Afghanistan, getting my fucking head shot off. So no brainer on a big 480 meter, 380 meter oil tanker with 100-meter freeboard or whatever it was, to the bridge, sorry.
Yeah.
And getting paid good money for it. But I remember me and him sat watching a movie. We're a 2-man team. So we said, well, we'll do sunrise, sunset, stagging on. You can't stag on 24 hours a day, but we'll do the key areas where attack is possible. And we'll take the weapons, again, before all the laws and legislations came in. So anybody watching this, I wasn't quite as cowboy as you think. We did take weapons down to the officers' mess area where there's a big TV, the whole wall was full of DVDs, and that's where we sat with our weapons and magazines in our pouches, so made safe, anybody that thinks. And yeah, just, we were watching a movie and he brought it up. He said, is it me, or is it sometimes you'll watch something and you'll sit there and go, as in you want to start crying, and you've got no clue what it's about. It would just be something you've seen on TV. And I was like, thank fuck for that. I thought I was the only one. So that kind of conversation started coming around. But at that point in my life, I thought I was all good. Nothing had even bothered me. It was only further down the road with the empathy scenario and later that things started to trigger. And what those triggers were, I still don't know. But yeah, it was an interesting one. Sat on this 380-meter oil tanker, and both of us nearly fucking in tears watching, some puppy that just died on TV or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But a random thing that we would like, what's going on? Yeah, very odd. Very odd.
Yeah, it is. It's cumulative, isn't it? You can only do that shit for so long.
Yeah.
Without it catching up with you at some point, and it hits people in different ways at different times. That's
yeah. The triggers are very interesting. Like for me, I've got 2 little kids. When they were babies crying, I just couldn't deal with it. Can't deal with. I could feel my blood pressure rising. I could feel sweat, hairs on the back of my neck standing up where I'm just about to lose my temper.
Yeah.
Because you've done everything that you can physically. And it's not the kid's fault. It's the baby. What do they know? But you've done everything you can do. But there's just a point, and I knew that point between good and evil, where my missus would be like, okay, just pass the baby to me. let me deal with it. I was like, thank you. Just couldn't deal with it. And that was a trigger for me. But a trigger as in that emotion. But there's, as we've been chatting about before, when people said to me, have you ever had PTSD? And I was like, nah, don't think so. But clearly I had. Must have done. I've never seen anybody for it. I've never been to anybody. You deal with it in different ways, I suppose.
Yeah.
We all think we're strong enough, and we're fucking men, aren't we? So of course we're strong enough. But maybe I should have seen somebody. But I'm lucky. I've got a good woman who's helped me inadvertently get through all of this. And good. Even with your mates, you don't really want to talk to them about it because you feel fucking stupid.
Well, you can do. Yeah, I know. I've been as guilty of that as anybody, and which is ludicrous considering what I've been doing for a living. Well, not even a living. I didn't even earn any money for it most of the time. But there we go. That's
and that is a difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like I said, I've been lucky. I've got a good woman now, and we've got a beautiful family, and she's really helped me through it. I say through something,
whatever that is.
Whatever that is, exactly. I don't know, but I mean, when you've been told you've got no empathy, and now I look back on it 10 years down the road and think, yeah, probably right. Actually, I didn't have much empathy. If you don't like me, it's your fucking problem, not mine. That kind of scenario. And well, I'm sick and I've broken my leg or whatever. Well, all right, get over it. Whatever. what do you want me to do about it?
Yeah.
A very weird way of describing it, but along those lines, I just didn't care less, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
But anger management, social hand grenade, fucking losing my temper at nothing. Generally down to drink, to be honest. And I found out there was a few drinks I shouldn't be drinking. Gin is one of them, which start triggering things. People talking about it. And again, it's an old scenario, interrogation scenarios and people use it in hypnosis that if you say something this continuously, you'd start to believe it. If you say everywhere you walk today, you're going to see the color red, you'll see more red than you did yesterday because there was phone boxes or buses or whatever. They're all red, aren't they? And hypnotherapists use that to a massive degree. So I think when it comes to these issues, who can deal with it? Who's qualified to deal with it? To me, the only people that can have a sympathetic ear to PTSD are people that have been there themselves. I personally, and correct me if I'm wrong, and please, whoever's watching this, correct me 100%. But when you're told to go and see a psychologist, what's the psychologist know about what we know or have been through? Do you see what I mean? How
100%.
Because people can't relate to it. That's the issue. I think that's the biggest issue, is that people cannot relate to what we've been through. Even guys in the military who have left and done civvy jobs can't relate to what you did as private security in those areas. I'm not talking close protection for a film star in London.
No.
But in hostile environments, people don't know how to relate to that. Even when you talk to a person cutting your hair, and, oh, what'd you do? I did private security. Well, in Afghanistan. They're like, what? We hear about these things, but we've never met somebody who does that kind of shit. Real life James Bond. Far from James Bond, mate. I don't get an Aston Martin for a start.
No.
So, it's
absolutely fucking not.
No, precisely. Get a battered old fucking Jeep. So, yeah, that's, I think, a big issue with all of this PTSD. And it's not just private security, but military as well, or any PTSD, is the person you're talking to needs to be able to relate to it. They need to have been through it themselves, I think.
It does. It does make a big difference. And this is, having worked with veterans for the last 10 years. It is, and this, and it's no disrespect to any psychotherapist, psychologist, or psychiatrist out there. They are eminently qualified, most of them. But it doesn't matter how qualified or experienced somebody is, if the person that they're helping doesn't trust them to be able to understand it enough, then it's a dead duck.
Yeah, precisely.
So it's breaking down that barrier first, because you're absolutely right. It makes a huge difference to when somebody's struggling with the effects of trauma, whether it's full-blown PTSD or if it's just the impact of trauma. To be able to relate on that level does make a massive difference.
Yeah.
It's not the be-all and end-all, but it does make a huge difference at the very beginning. If the therapist is good enough, they'll be able to overcome that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, maybe I'm just keeping myself away from it, so I'm making excuses for myself. Do you know what I mean? But I don't feel. I don't feel like I need to see a therapist, because I feel maybe I should have done at the beginning, but now definitely not, because I've got a good woman. My head is in the game. I'm more focused and clear-minded than what I ever have been, I think, where I know there's a period. I can sort of box it off to go, this is when it started. This is when it started to come out and be finished. And I know, not so long ago, me and you had a chat because of issues that I was going through. But those issues were triggered because, and like I said to you, it was like some hormone or whatever I was giving off, just happened to be a week where people kept saying to me, "Oh, have you had PTSD? Have you had PTSD?" I'm like, "Fucking hell. Have I got written on my head or something? What's going on?" I'm normal. But I think, again, I'm dealing with civvies and civvies of a different nationality. So I've got Dutch friends. And when we're at a braai, a barbecue, for those that don't know, we do things differently. We are different species of people. Ex-military
Absolutely
are a different species of people. And when you come to social gatherings, you have to be of a certain ilk. You have to conduct yourself in a certain way. Now, after a few beers, some of us forget that. And maybe that's where it comes from. Maybe that's where people go, "Oh, fucking hell, you shouldn't be drinking 15 pints of top shelf." Well, why not? Because to us, that's normal. But to them, that's as far from normal as you can fucking get. Do you know what I mean? It's not saying that's what I was doing, but that's just as an example of, he says, with a very nice glass of red wine.
Oh yeah, I'm jealous. I don't have any at the moment.
7Ps, my friend, 7Ps.
No, I know. I've failed miserably today. So to kind of wrap it up, if you were to, it's kind of a steering the question in two directions, same question, but kind of if you were to kind of give your younger self advice, or anybody else who's been through what you've been through in your life, the varied wandering path of your life, what advice would you give if there was kind of top 3 tips? What would you give?
Be true to yourself.
Yeah.
Don't run before you can walk. And that takes many different descriptions in various ways. I'll come on to that. But yeah, be true to yourself. Don't run before you can walk. And what would be my third one? Don't know. Third one's a tough one, to be honest, because I'd say no regrets, but I don't think I do have regrets. I do in some aspects. So that takes me back to don't run before you can walk. Because, again, we go back to what I saw, me personally. And I'm not saying it's everybody, because there's lads in the military that have been married and stayed married, and good luck to that. And that's kind of what I wanted. But even when I left the military, got married, didn't work. It's kind of always trying to find that thing. But now you've got the what people perceive. Oh, he's been married fucking 3 times. It's not normal. Well, we're not fucking normal, are we? We're trying to find something, but we don't know what that is we're trying to find.
Yeah.
So when I say be true to yourself, be true to yourself. Be who you are and be honest with yourself about what's going on. I haven't been, I don't think. And I think there's a lot of us out there that haven't been, because we're rugby playing fucking soldiers, mercenary, private security, whatever. And we don't need to confront it. We can deal with it. Like I said, I've been very lucky, but there's a lot of people not very lucky. There's a lot of people out there that don't have anybody to talk to.
That's very true.
Anybody they wake up with that they can take their shit out on. I don't mean physically. I mean just like offload what you're thinking, and who can decipher it for you. Because that's what you need. You need somebody to decipher the shit, because we don't know what it is. We don't know why it is or what's going on, but that's what you need to do. So yeah, I mean, run before you can walk. Just take a step back. Yes, you want the house, the 2.4 kids, the car, the coming home every day. Doesn't mean get married to the first person you walk into. Don't, do you know what I mean? Just slow down, take a deep breath. Do you need to be with somebody? Do you need to, I've worked in different jobs where I've enjoyed myself. Luckily, I was by myself, because if you were with somebody else, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have been as fun. And that's not just jobs, that's going on holiday. Don't be afraid to go on holiday by yourself, because you meet other people. Just take the leap. And because we're military or ex-military, that's a big leap to take as well. To step into the unknown is scary for us because we've had everything boxed in. We've had our three meals a day. We've had our, do something wrong, you go to the local jail, the battalion jail. If you want to eat, you call the chef and the chef cooks your food. If you don't have to deal with your taxes because the army does that for you, don't have to deal with it. You just take your money and you fucking do what you want with it. When you step out of that, and particularly at our point when we're in private security, you're not only going into the unknown of Civvy Street, you're going into the unknown of working in private security by yourself without that backing. So, take some time out. Don't necessarily just jump into private security, maritime security, fucking bodyguarding. Go and do something else. Go and do something totally different, mate. Like I did, drove trucks. Great. I was my own boss. Nobody could tell me what to do at that time. I mean, now there's cell phones, but once I left the yard in the UK to go to Spain, as long as it's there on that day, how I got there was irrelevant. It was great, mate. I used to love it. Perfect times. Because it gives you time to separate yourself from the military. If you leave the military to be with people from the military, you're going to be in the military, irrelevant of what you're doing, because the mentality is the same, the dits are the same, the pull up a sandbag is the same. It's the same shit, but you're just not in the military anymore. But you think you're still in the military. You need to be a civvy properly.
Yeah, I'm. It's taken me a long time as well to kind of get to that point. But I think you just nailed something there. Is do something different to separate yourself from the military.
Got to
100%.
Yeah. And I took what 9 months out. I went back to South Africa. Drove overland trucks randomly. Met a guy who had cerebral malaria in Johannesburg, who was the overland driver and owner of the company, and ended up driving overland trucks. I did the Southern Highlights route, which was they were based in Zimbabwe, so from Harare to Chimanimani Mountains near Mozambique up to Vic Falls, Okavango Delta, Johannesburg, Kruger, back to Johannesburg. That was the southern trip. Reverse on the way north. Did that, mate. Fucking epic. Loved it. Because I was just a driver with all these tourists, and these tourists were generally students or whatever, and you're just having fun. I was getting paid $100 a month to drive tourists around Africa, my home. Perfect. Nothing to do with the military, nothing to do with soldiers, just to do with wildlife and actually getting my feet back on the ground. And that's what I did. I did that for like eight months before I came back to the UK and started with the Formula One stuff. It's what's needed. You got to do it. You got to get in there with both feet to be a civvy. Don't always think about the money. Think about the money's not in the job anymore, to be perfectly honest.
No, it's shot to bits, isn't it?
Yeah, you may still be getting paid more than you were as a fucking Marine trooper or private class one, but you're just mixing with the same people, and that is one of the worst things I think you can do. Get out there.
No, it's not in that context. It's not worth dying for.
No, exactly. I mean, I've been doing the maritime now for 11 years. I took 2 years out working as an ops manager in a school, international school here. Now back into the maritime simply because of COVID, and there was nothing else to do. There's 500 jobs I've applied for, and 2 interviews. And out of those 2 interviews, one of them was a 5-stage interview with 422 other people. So, it's employees fucking, they're loving it at the moment, but for us, trying to find work is chaos. So I've got back into the maritime, but shocking, absolutely shocking. One, the state of affairs with who's being employed. The pay peanuts get monkeys scenario. When I started maritime security, there was 6 maritime companies, 5, 6, all from the UK. When I left maritime, to work at the school. So that was 2018. There was just under 400. It says everything.
Yeah.
Not going to get paid for it. So
no,
not
at all.
No, but the mentality is the same. You know, you get some great lads out there. Don't get me wrong, but if you're leaving the military, or you think you've got some issue, which is what this is all about, don't get into private security. There are other jobs out there. Go work on. I protect super yachts. Go and work on a super yacht. If you're young enough, I'm not young enough, I would love to go do it because that wasn't about in my day. But if you're young enough, go and work on a deckhand. Go and get a job on a super yacht and fucking travel around all these exotic places and get paid a shed load of money for it. Thank you very much. That's what we need to do. Not doing what we do. That's just, You know, I'm 50 years old now. I'd love to get into yachts and stuff, but I've got a family. And that's not the lifestyle. So if you're a single lad or lass who's just got out of the military, don't get in private security. Go and get on a yacht. Go and do ski chalets. Go, you know, I know it's very difficult because of COVID times, but go travel, man. Go meet other nationalities and get your head out of every Afghan and Iraqi as a wanker, because they're not. There's some fucking good people out there.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the biggest issues again, you know. Everyone hates Muslims, everyone this because of Iraq and Afghanistan. They're not. Muslims are not the issue. You know, there's Christians. Christianity is the bigger issue that has caused more issues in the past if we took it back to the Crusades, etc. So bearing and digressing off the point, don't think every Muslim is a fucking idiot, because they're not. There's some super nice people out there. And if you travel to Malaysia, Thailand, you know, Indonesia, East Africa, where there's a lot of Muslim people, and you'll soon see how fucking nice people can be. Get out the
absolutely
mentality. That's my suggestion, mate. That's what I think. You know, there's loads of dits you can spend, to be honest, but a lot of them, they're kind of, you got to be there, haven't you? It's one of those things. There's me and you could talk about, because we've both been there together, but to people watching or listening to this, you definitely had to be there.
It gets something lost in translation, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, Troy, thanks, mate. Really, I mean, I've loved talking and listening, and there's some real little gems have come out of this.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope it helps, and I hope other people get involved in this. It's, I think it's a good thing. It's easy to listen to people than it is to talk to people. So the more we can get people involved into listening to people like myself and yourself and others from sporting backgrounds or military backgrounds or whatever,
all walks of life, absolutely,
the better.
Because you know, I called this podcast "Mind Matters" because the mind matters.
Exactly that. It does,
and we've got to take care of it.
Yeah, 100%.
And we've got to learn to do that for ourselves first and foremost.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely.
Then we can help other people.
Here's hoping, bro. Here's hoping. This is what it's all about. So, if in doubt, have a drink. No,
Listen, mate. We will chat again very soon. Thanks for sharing today.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it. I'm pretty sure. I have no doubt that other people will have a laugh along the way, but still take away something useful. So
that's
cheers,
the
bud.
main thing, isn't it? Is taking away something. Take everything with a pinch of salt. And,
absolutely.
You know, listen to advice. Don't mean you have to take all of it. Take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my third thing. Done.
There we go.
Phew. After that.
Better late than ever. Listen, dude. Cheers, buddy.
Been a pleasure.
And I'll let you know when this is ready.
Roger that, mate. Have a good
Cheers,
one.
bud.
Take
you
it
too.
easy.
Thanks, mate.
Adios. Cheers, bro.